When you just connect online, you disconnect from yourself. I do still play video games and I still enjoy anime, but I used to like religiously play video games all day and watch anime and just distract myself because I had so much, well, emotional baggage, let's call it, that I couldn't deal with it. I think we all have a different place of where we start. We all can take only so much, and we're all in different phases of our lives and living different lives, even though we're connected, right? And we're human beings. I think what I've come to realize is we way too often ignore our bodies and intuition and know what's right for us. I knew that it wasn't right for me to sit at the computer all day, but I couldn't deal with it. It was too much emotionally to face the real world, so I just sat inside all day. I don't know if you heard this term, but it's mostly from Japan, hikikomori, or shut-in. It's a term that essentially is reserved for people that sit inside all day and cannot deal with the outside. And I feel like I have fit that description pretty well for a while. I would just sit inside, play video games all day, and just order takeaway or get microwave food. Going outside every time was a struggle. Honestly, it still is a little bit. But yeah, because it feels like the outside world is just too scary and too much to deal with. And I'm working on that still. Something that has been building up over time where I'm just like, I'm tired of sitting inside all day, being caved into this place. And I know I can do so much more. And I know that I can, not only contribute to society in a more productive way, but I also can give myself a better life. Which isn't just, I'm going to do an action based on my fear or comfort or safety. Even though comfort and safety is very good and important, it comes to like a point where it's like damaging, right? So that's my I suppose path right now. I'm moving, and it's been really taking its toll on me. It's been really hard to get rid of stuff and to just let go of old patterns. But it's a gradual process, and honestly, I'm proud of myself for where I'm going and where I'm at. But I'm noticing how important it is to listen to yourself and take care of yourself, even if society has all these expectations. And I think the crux is that we need to be more fluid in society with our expectations and not make it so hard, because we're losing so many people to this phenomenon. Our world is getting more and more digital. People are just staring at their phones, they're playing video games, they're watching these fake like shows of like influencers and people that they just make up this fantasy that they live, which isn't even real. It's just half the story. It's just filters and bullshit. I'm just gonna say it. It's just bullshit. Some of it is like, hey, that's awesome. We were elevating as humans, and we can do so much now. We can not worry so much about survival. We can thrive, and we can take better care of ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with focusing on looking good, feeling good, and creating your own perfect life or ideal life. But I feel bad for this generation and the generations before me, because you're just here, like, growing up with all these kinds of, like, oh, you should do this, you should be like that, you should think like this, and we are going in the right direction when it comes to free thinking and stuff like that, but I do see some dangerous patterns when it comes to this kind of hive mind of this is the only right solution. It's us or them. Fear-based thinking and action and hatred. We're driven by fear, driven by hatred. And if we want to grow as a society, we have to let go of this, oh, but life's just tough and you gotta tough it up and all that kind of thing. I bet you there is millions of shut-ins around the world. Think about that. Now, I'm not very fond of like thinking of these people as like just a workforce that's untapped, but because I don't buy into that. I think that's like kind of damaging as well. We need to see them as humans that need help and see a way that they can be reintegrated into society and contribute in their way. But I think that it's such a loss of brilliance, is rather what I want to say. It's such a loss of brilliance where so many people are stuck at home. They're scared to live their lives because they can't keep up to society's expectations. So they just hide themselves in a shell. And I'm not just projecting this from my own experience. This is a widespread phenomenon with this kind of digital modern culture and rise in society. There is some drawbacks to disconnecting from nature and disconnecting from yourselves, obviously. When you just connect online, you disconnect from yourself. And we stop listening. Now, I think it's such a loss of brilliance, and I'm going to say it again. Because when you think of it, somebody's soulmates is part of that group. Somebody's best friend is part of that group that can inspire them to do something great. Or they themselves have some really great ideas that can help society in a great way. Not that they're supposed to live just for society, but I think there is sadly this notion of a very, at least vocal minority who's like, oh, but they're just lazy and they need to contribute and they need to work hard, and back in my day, and which is totally not helpful at all. It just worsens the problem. I think we come so far in evolution that we need to, or I suggest we start looking less about this kind of like us versus them mentality and start to lift each other up instead. We are capable of that. We have so many resources and our technology is rising, and as a result we need to also take care of each other and our mental health. I just know from my own experience that sitting inside all day is so unhealthy mentally, and it doesn't take much to get back on track, to at least for the person to feel like, hey, I feel like I have somewhat of purpose, or I feel like I'm going towards something meaningful and I can start to enjoy life again and not just hide from it. It doesn't take much. One of the things that I do think is part of the solution, and I'm not going to go too deep into it in this video probably, I just want to touch on the subject, but that is just showing up and being open. Like when it comes to people outside, just showing up and being open to lend a hand if needed. It doesn't need to be even about the subject of being a shut-in or whatever. Just being like, hey, I'm here for you if you need me. Or just talking. Just talking. It doesn't have to be anything related to it. Just feeling like a human being again. Just talking to someone is so valuable. Because when you sit inside, the world becomes a scary place where only you exist, except for the little bubble that you create around you, which might be online and gaming friends, right? And maybe some worried family members that you don't really feel a connection to. This is my experience. And I think a lot of these shut-ins can relate. And maybe you are one yourself listening right now. Let me know in the comments what your experience is. Now, that's number one. We need to not be so rigid. We need to be open to change, open to differences in people, and see that, hey, maybe this person is struggling, and maybe I can help them, right? And it doesn't have to take away from you either. It can actually be very fulfilling. I think there were some studies that show that people that do charity work for just a few minutes, it was like a study at some university, I forget, that showed just a few minutes of charity work made them feel more energized and having more sense of a purpose. I think the book I read it from was Never Split the Difference, which is a book about, he was dealing with hostage situations and working for the FBI. And he was talking about some studies that showed a test where two groups of people in the university, where one was given time off, it was like 15 minutes, while the other was given the choice of doing charity for 15 minutes. And the people that did the charity felt much more energized and a sense of purpose. I believe that was the case. Now, I know this myself. I've been sometimes in a really low place, and I just said, frick it, I'm just gonna go do something else than just sitting inside. And at one point I did some charity. I gathered some food, and I gave away some items to a homeless guy and some other people, and had some really eye-opening and heartwarming conversations with these people. And it gave me a sense of purpose as well. It gave me this kind of like, hey, I can do good stuff in the world. I can feel useful. I can feel like I'm part of something. And that's exactly the crux that these kinds of shut-ins need, I believe. Now, I think another important thing is for the person itself to be open. Because if you're not open to change, you're not gonna change. You can't expect others to do the work for you. They can only guide you. You have to make the change yourself. But it becomes much easier when you have someone to lean on. So don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't beat yourself up for where you are at. Take it one step at a time. You don't need to make a jump straight away. Again, what I've noticed is it just feels so great to go outside in nature, because I've been sitting inside the computer for so long, just feeling the sun, touching grass, whatever. Feels so good. And just talking to people. And it can be that simple. Or it can be charity work, or just doing something, like getting up in the morning and just doing something. It doesn't have to be revolutionary, changing the world or anything like that. It doesn't have to be a 9-to-5 full-time job or anything like that. Actually, to the contrary, I think our work-life balance now is super outdated and unhealthy. Hopefully, one of the good things that can come out of AI is AI will take over the jobs that we do not want to have, and we will get some kind of global income. Perhaps that's my wishful thinking, but I do hope and believe that's the direction we're going. Now, a little bit of a tip, and I touched upon this earlier, is do not try to push someone into something, because it's never going to work. Maybe they need a little bit of, hey, come on, you got this. But don't push someone into something that's never going to work. They have to want to make the change, especially for it to sit. This is how we also work as human beings when it comes to motivation and habits. If you want to actually do something, like let's say your New Year's resolution, you have to actually want it. It doesn't matter like, oh, I'm going to start working out because I want to look good for other people and da 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 da. You're just going to work out for a week and then you're done. If you work out because you care and love for yourself, which is also probably the third crux or tip, whatever, is kind of self-love and self-compassion. Because if you make action based on that, life becomes much easier. But when you do it as kind of like a tyrant, which is like, it doesn't matter if you're doing it to yourself or someone is bossing over you, but if there's this kind of like tyrant thing going on, you're not going to have meaningful, lasting change. But if I'm like, hey, I actually care for my body deserves to be treated well. Why am I stuffing myself with crap? I know I deserve better. I can have a cheat day every now and then, but do I really need to eat potato chips every day? Is it really necessary to sit in front of the computer 12 hours straight? You know, I myself, I would work and I would relax on a computer, and then I would lay down and watch my phone. And it's just not healthy. Straight up. And very often the best solutions are simple, where you don't think about it. It's super simple. We know all these things. You know it too. When it comes to sleep, when it comes to food, when it comes to what's good for you. And also, it's not even necessarily what modern media is telling you either. It's so important to listen to your body. An example of, in my case is I'm not allergic to gluten, but I've been cutting out gluten because I just been feeling bloated and not feeling well, and I tried to figure out what was causing it. I cut out white bread and I started feeling better. I didn't feel so tense in my muscles either. And sometimes it can be like placebo effect, right? So you have to watch out for that. But also you don't want to question yourself also too. Just try different things and see what works for you. And so yeah, that's my tip, and that's also my real talk for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you stay safe. I hope you take care of yourself, and hope to see you next time. If you enjoyed this content, think of giving this video a like and subscribe. If you want to share something or connect, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.